All right, Nick, let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. We're talking about this upcoming season, potentially some accolades some guys might get after the 2025 season. I think people are starting to realize that Carson Beck is a heck of a player. Georgia's a heck of a team. Is getting a little bit more respect, and I think that is a great sign for the Georgia Bulldogs. Let's get into the tweet, and then we'll talk more about all of this on the other side. This is from over on Pro Football Talk on Twitter or X. Carson Beck surpasses Shadur Sanders as the betting favorite to go number one overall in 2025. Nick, now I think this says a lot about Carson Beck. I think he was very underrated. I think a couple of other quarterbacks are very overrated. I'm not saying they're bad, I just think they're overhyped. And Beck was very underhyped. Now I'm thinking this is showing that people are finally seeing Beck is a little bit better than they were thinking, but also this speaks a lot to Georgia as a team, that they're a very good team as well. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one. But Georgia fans, in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on Beck? Where do you think he ranks in the echelon of the current college football quarterbacks? Let us know in the comment section below. Is he top 5? Is he top 1? Is he top 10? I'm curious what you have to say. But Nick, what are your thoughts on the Georgia Bulldogs in this Carson Beck news?
So I think the fact that Beck is ranked number one, obviously to go 2025 over one overall in the NFL draft in 2025 is obviously a great sign. But it's important to understand that is the betting favorite, which means that's not just some random analyst saying it. That's the money, that's the dollars to donuts. And this early in the cycle is usually the most accurate prediction. As weird as that sounds in terms of the odds makers, barring injuries or something unforeseen happening, right? Because the odds makers will then shift their lines based on betting dollars going to one side or the other of the bet. So at this point, establishing their lines early, that means that the smart money, Vegas, right, the people who have billions of dollars invested, think Carson Beck is the best quarterback in college football. And I think the point here is that Georgia has completed the transition into becoming the dynasty that they think they can become, that I know Bulldogs fans want them to become. And here's what I mean by this. You go back to the early years of the Nick Saban dynasty, right? They were a run the football up the middle, special teams and defense, have 8 defensive linemen go in the first round of the NFL draft and win games 9-6. Sound familiar, Georgia fans? That's a lot of how you were at the beginning of your recent run of success. But Alabama, like all dynasties, had to transition. They had to get with the times. They went high flying offense. They got great quarterback play, and everything else fell into line. They won a bunch more national titles, won a bunch more games. Kirby Smart is following that exact same role. He's like, okay, I got my defense. It worked out. We were dominant, but I've got to adapt. I've got to build a team that can win not just 1 year or 2 years when we have 40 first round draft picks on defense. I've got to build a team that will have sustained success. And by having an elite quarterback, the best quarterback, I'm going to recruit the other best quarterbacks. I'm going to recruit the best receivers, the best tight ends, the best offensive linemen, the best running backs, so on and so forth, and get in this incredible cycle of recruiting success on the offensive skill position side of the ball. And if you have the best skill position players in the country, or at least in one of the best, you're going to be just automatically by default one of the top 5 teams in the country, right? And when you factor in Kirby Smart's defensive genius in recruiting, there's no reason that Georgia can't be the favorite essentially every year to win the national title like Alabama was for so many years. In the modern era of college football, it starts with the quarterback. You have to be really, really good at quarterback, just like the National Football League. Georgia's emphasis on recruiting and developing quarterbacks has finally worked out. Stetson Bennett was great for everything he did for the program, but he was very, very limited in terms of what he could do. Carson Beck has no such limitations in terms of passing the football, and he brings this Georgia Bulldog team to another level. Not just this upcoming season, which I think they're the favorite to win the national title, but I think the results of this success will be like what we saw early with Alabama. You're going to start seeing great quarterbacks. You're going to see like Alabama got the Mac Joneses, the Bryce Youngs, and so on and so forth to come. This is the start right here. Carson Beck is the beginning, and we're going to start to see the next generation of elite quarterbacks, not elite Georgia, but elite quarterbacks in college football start coming to Athens.
Yeah, Nate, and I think, like we said, Beck has just been so underrated. I think he's really going to shine this season. But if you look at him, it's a wonder why people counted him out or didn't really give him his laurels at all. This guy's got the great prototypical size. He's 6'4", 220. If you look at his PFF grades, he was the 4th highest graded quarterback of all quarterbacks in the NCAA. last season. Two of those guys, Jaden Daniels, a great player and a great runner. That running grade really boosted his rankings up quite high, is no longer in the NCAA. The other guy, Bo Nix, kind of in that Oregon scheme, helps boost guys' stats a whole lot. He's a guy no longer in this zeitgeist. He has moved on to the NFL. Now it's Carson Beck and Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel, also a more athletic running. Not saying that Carson Beck can't run. He had a decent running grade, 71.7 per PFF last season. But this is a guy who's the best passer. He has the best PFF passing grade of the quarterbacks still in NCAA. And I think it's like you said, this is going to start the era of the best offenses. We're going to see offense come back, offense reign supreme. I think guys like Carson Beck are going to lead the way at Georgia. We're going to see a lot more dominant quarterbacks come to Georgia because of it. And I really like the trend that's going in. And I really like for Carson Beck that he is getting the respect that he deserves. And I think Kirby Smart is going to have this team rolling. We're going to see them be much, much more competitive, getting that college playoff spot that they so well deserved last season as well.